where are we as a society where we think the founders of our country were terrorists? I mean, there is no society. It's just all a joke, isn't it? If that's the way it's going to be. And I think the thing is, we've let too many people that really should be out on the fringe. We let them take over the mainstream discourse, and that's something we can't let happen. We just can't let that continue. We can't have these news organizations running the country. They're subversive. Mm-hmm. They don't believe in anything. They're nihilistic, frankly.
Mm-hmm. And the same goes for this, false light New Age movement, which is really just like Luciferian doctrine, and is actually really painful and disturbing to the soul process. Just
Yeah,
there's
it is really disturbing.
Yeah,
it's really disturbing because they seem to like have a form of godliness, and they have some of the scriptures. They pretend that they're teaching them, but they're not. No. They're not there, and then they get held by the devil.
Mm-hmm. And then there's just like, there's just all we can get into the Q thing. Oh my gosh. I don't know if we want to go there.
Well, we can if you want to. I mean, Q's a demon from Star Trek. We can talk about that.
I think
they try to make it seem like it's light, but it's not light. It's total darkness.
Mm-hmm. It's the same.
And that's the trick.
Yeah, it's that same thing. It all what is it? All roads lead to Rome, or what is that saying?
Yeah, I think it's all roads lead to Rome. And when we talk about all the administrative despotism that we have in the United States and the legal when people are being legally abused, there are so many things in the way of common law right now that are like just administrative regulations and rules and things. I mean, if you look at the stock exchange, this is a good example of that. There's basic common law of how you buy and sell something, and they've just completely cut off the course of that common law. And they just made it now so that there's like a private regulatory body that just overrules everything. It overrules common sense. And it's really unbelievable. They have short selling swindles that happen. And, I'm not even against short selling. It's just they're selling things they don't even have just to destroy people's companies. And people can't do anything about it. They have lawsuits about it, and the judge just says, well, the exchange said it was okay, and the SEC stamped it, so I guess that's the law now. And that kind of mentality, the whole problem is it's unconstitutional because we don't live in Rome. In point in fact, we're not the Roman Empire. We have a common law of England. England is not Britain. We came over here to the Americas to get away from that Catholic system, that Roman system, and now people are trying to put it back again. And it's never going to be legitimate. It's never going to be constitutional. And we just have to do something.
It's just like, you mentioned Facebook. We have the FCC, and Facebook headquarters are located in the jurisdiction of the FCC. So you would think that it would, because it's a platform for business and communication, even more prevalent probably than using the phone nowadays, that it would be regulated by the FCC. Instead it's, there's censorship, massive censorship.
We get into issues there about have the people of the United States themselves gone into that private domain and subjected themselves to those rules. I think that a simple thing that could be done is that Trump could just have every federal agency pull out of Twitter and pull out of Facebook at the same time, unless they're actually allowed to have a public forum inside their web pages. Because that's a perfect example right there. How can it be considered anything but a public forum when you make a comment on the Facebook page of a federal agency? Mm-hmm. So this is one of the things that I think people should look into. Because when the whole people of the United States are going into well, let's just put it this way. What if they'd had a lot of Continental Congresses inside a tavern? I mean, would that tavern owner be able to control the Continental Congress? I mean, obviously the answer is no, and it shouldn't be any different for Facebook. I mean, if Facebook's not going to let one side speak, then either they have to force Facebook out of their power, or they have to meet somewhere else. It should be illegal for the government agencies to even have Facebook accounts if this is the way they treat people. That's what I think about it.
I agree. Well, I just wanted to come on and chat really quick with you about due process. I guess I wanted to...
Well, if we want to get more into that, I'll say that people need to look at Michael Badnarik. He ran for Libertarian Party. Michael Badnarik had a very good talk on the Constitution. That's a really good place to start looking. And people need to, if they're having issues with CPS, they have to think about what all they can do to get outside of the, I mean, to the extent that would be lawful, to actually go outside the regular child court system. I think they'd be better off in civil court, just like things used to be. Because in the 1790s, that's what they did everything in, civil court. And they didn't have special courts. They didn't have special juvenile codes.
Yeah,
they just did things under the common law.
Welfare and institution codes, which I think are federal. WIC.
Yeah, I think the feds lean on the states so they can get, quasi-state federal, things passed. So technically it's state legislation, but really the feds are controlling it.
Yep. Well, Jacob, I thank you so much for coming on briefly with me and chatting. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Amelia.
You're so welcome. You're always welcome back. All right, I'm going to cut it short because Aiden's going to be home. He just went out to go to the store for me. So, I'm sorry I got to cut it short. Are you still there?
I am.
Oh, okay. I do want to mention really quick that I do have advocacy platforms where I do provide for free advice. If you are going through child protective services, you're going through that, there are platforms and blogs available where you can get some tools and resources. If you do have an open case, I suggest that you don't discuss it online or publish any documents online. I encourage members to study the following list of tactics. Let's see. I have a disclaimer, I guess. I should read it. I encourage members to study the following list of tactics that other members have employed in the past to protect their families from CPS-related crimes. We encourage conscious uncoupling to avoid engaging with the court's corrupted enemies. They're the enemies that are profiting from the pain of others that they create. I think that's my own personal opinion. No advice can be given as solid wisdom concerning CPS and the courts, as there is no clear path to a certain, the certain return of your children. But I encourage all to file evidence of malicious prosecution, malfeasance, fraud, extortion to the IRS. And here are some of the things that I found useful in my case. Audio, video, record in audio as much as possible. You can never have enough proof. And number 2, obtain all CPS records, not just court records, but CPS database records on you and your family. And you can access more information by filing a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act. Although it's a no-brainer that CPS records would be entered into the court case, This almost never happens, and a lot of people don't know this. So your lawyer probably will not make you aware that the records exist. Public defenders routinely violate California Brady disclosure laws, or just Brady disclosure laws in general, and withhold evidence during the trial. 3, set up an email account strictly for you and your CPS caseworker. 2, communicate by email as your primary, if not sole, communication tool. Email is forever and it's time-stamped. All workers have email addresses, and it should be your choice of communication. And you should request that be upheld. Number 4, pray and pore over your case. Obsess and find every and all erroneous information provided to you, provided to the courts by CPS and others, and write statements of facts in your own writings, correcting all falsehoods and misunderstandings, and get it notarized. And make sure that it's put in your court record. You may not be afforded another opportunity, so you want to make sure that it's in your case file and stamped, filed. Remember that trying to make sense out of the staged logic is futile. It's a futile effort. They scheme and connive, and they twist the laws, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not a female male thing, like I said earlier in the show. And I always use the KISS rule, keep it simple, stupid. All state employees compartmentalize and are trained to complicate and convolute cases, and this is called incompetence. So knowing that, the courts use it to profit. So be sure to utilize all of these tools I've just said to you. You can find this list of recommendations on my blog, Mama Bear Justice and Porthole to Justice. It's in the introduction if you want to print it out, if you do have an open case. And there is lots of other resources there. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this afternoon. And this has been another episode of Porthole to Justice Off the Cuff.